Today's video has been made possible by Wondrium, an online learning platform with thousands of courses, lectures, and documentaries. Stick around until the end to find out more. Cryptids are undoubtedly some of my favourite creatures from folklore. Having already covered the likes of the Mothman, the Jersey Devil, the Chupacabra, and the Loch Ness Monster, it's about time we return to North America, home to hundreds of unique and strange creatures. I cannot think of a better place to start than with Bigfoot, a creature that is said to roam the forests of the United States and Canada. Bigfoot is also referred to as Sasquatch, and the most common description is as a large, hairy, ape-like or humanoid creature that stands anywhere between 6 to 10 feet tall. The name Bigfoot originates from a group of men working for a logging company out of California in 1958. During several jobs, they noticed heavy equipment and material being moved around. Once they established it was none of them, they assumed it must have been some kind of practical joke. A man called Jerry Crew came across a set of 16-inch footprints that he thought were human. The rest of the workers began to see these footprints and assumed they belonged to the mysterious prankster. They started calling this mysterious figure Bigfoot. Eventually, their story as well as a cast of the footprint would appear in a local newspaper, and thus the legend of Bigfoot began. Mentions and depictions of creatures similar to Bigfoot go back centuries and can be traced back to several Native American tribes. Those native to what is now California carved images of wild and hairy men that are now compared to the modern idea of Bigfoot. Most alleged sightings occur in Northwest America, but spread across the entirety of North America, especially in rocky and forest-dense areas like the Great Lakes region. Most of these claims are explained as hoaxes or large animals such as bears being mistaken for Bigfoot. Those who claim to have seen Bigfoot describe a range of varying behavior, from throwing rocks and branches at people to hanging bones of animals on trees to mark his territory, and of course chasing those pesky trespassers off said territory. The majority of these sightings happen when it's dark, which naturally makes Bigfoot even harder to identify, but has also led to the idea that he is a nocturnal creature. Stories from indigenous tribes speak of these figures as something to be feared but also respected. They aren't malevolent or malicious. We do see this with many stories surrounding Bigfoot. It's often him defending his territory, as opposed to going out of his way to attack someone. Despite all the hysteria, the hoaxes, the alleged sightings, and the skeptics, we are still no closer to finding Bigfoot. But one thing is for sure, there is no shortage of people willing to continue this search. And who knows? Maybe one day they'll find what they're looking for. We find ourselves back in West Virginia, this time taking a look at the devil dogs, also known as the white things and sheep squatch. Most reported sightings of these creatures happen around the southern counties of West Virginia. Their appearance varies from demonic dogs to something that is more akin to a yeti or Sasquatch that crawls on all fours. Commonly they are described as a creature the size of a bear, with white fur, a long pointed head, and saber-like teeth. Much like the Mothman, they are also thought to have come from the TNT area in Mason County. Those who claim to have been attacked say it felt as real as anything they've experienced before. They felt the fangs and claws tearing into their flesh. But when the attack was over, there were no marks, no blood, and nothing to suggest they had even been attacked in the first place. The first reported sighting of the devil dogs came in 1973, with a family driving by Point Pleasant. The 7-year-old boy in the back told his parents he saw something with thick white shaggy fur that was about 3 foot wide. The family then said the creature appeared right beside the car floating in the air, following them for several minutes before disappearing. Sightings continued over the years along the roadside, but mostly in heavily wooded areas. The last recorded encounter was in 2015, when 6 campers came across something on top of a hill at around midnight. Shining their torches in its direction, they revealed a creature over 9 feet tall that was charging down the hill. The only thing separating them was a small river. The creature stalked around for several minutes looking for a way to cross, but when it couldn't find one, it jumped in the river and began to swim across. The group ran back to their campsite, gathered their belongings and fled. They reported the incident to the locals, but not the authorities, for fear of not being believed, as it does sound like a story made up by someone high on shrooms in the forest. For the next creature, we head to Maumee Valley in northern Indiana, where we find the Beast of Busco, an enormous snapping turtle. This story begins in 1898 in a small Indiana town known as Churubusco, or Busco for short. A farmer named Oscar Folk came across a giant turtle living in the lake on his farm. He told others in the town, but no one would take him seriously, and so he decided against pursuing the turtle any further. 50 years later, 2 locals reported seeing a turtle that must have weighed close to 500 pounds whilst they were out fishing in what was now known as Folk Lake. The owner of the farm at the time had also reported seeing the giant turtle. The story soon became national news, and groups of people flocked to the town in hopes of seeing this monster turtle. For a town of just over 1,000 people, this had a pretty big impact. The amount of people driving to the farm caused so much traffic, the state police were called in to offer assistance. Those who came to see the turtle were extremely disappointed and questioned whether it was just a clever ploy by the then owner Gale Harris to drive tourism to the town and his farm. In an effort to clear his name, Harris had most of the lake drained, but the turtle, now nicknamed Oscar after the previous owner, was nowhere to be seen. Several attempts to find him may have been unsuccessful, but the town still likes to remember Oscar, as every June they hold a festival in his memory. A giant turtle, in all honesty, isn't that weird, but the same can't be said for the Ohio frogman, also known as the Loveland Frog and the Loveland Lizard. This cryptid is described as a 4-foot-tall frog that has been seen all around Loveland, Ohio. The story began in 1955, when a man walking by the roadside reported seeing 3 frog-like men with webbed hands and feet. This could have been easily brushed off as just another drunk, but the reported sightings continued. Whilst driving at 3:30 in the morning, a man noticed 3 reptilian creatures by the road. At first he thought they were humans in costumes, but then he noticed they had leathery skin like a frog. It gets stranger, because one of them held up what he called a wand, and when sparks began to shoot out, he quickly drove away. Could this wand have been a firework being held by someone in a costume? Possibly, but I'd like to believe this man saw 3 giant frog wizards practicing magic on the roadside at 3 AM in the morning. Interest in the frogman peaked once again when the Loveland police themselves killed an animal that matched its description. In 1972, Officer Ray Shockey was driving when an animal ran across his vehicle. Ahead of him, he described a creature that was between 3 to 4 feet tall and between 50 to 75 pounds. He said it was crouched like a frog and eventually stood up on 2 feet to climb over the guardrail and head back down the river. 2 weeks later, Officer Mark Matthews reported seeing the same unidentified animal along the same roadside. Matthews pulled out his rifle and shot the animal dead. Upon examining the corpse, he identified it as a large iguana with a missing tail, which is why both men struggled to identify it in the first place. Stories surrounding the Loveland Frog are extremely weird, even for a cryptid. We are going back to West Virginia and the town of Flatwoods in Braxton County for our last cryptid, the Flatwoods Monster, also known as the Braxton County Monster. This cryptid is said to be 10 feet tall and 4 feet wide. It has a red face, a pointed hood, and a dark metallic body. It was first seen in 1952 by 3 young boys who witnessed a bright object fly across the sky and crash on the land of a local farmer. They told a woman named Kathleen May what they had seen. She and 3 of the local boys traveled to the farm to see if the story was true. They came to the top of the hill where the boys said the object had landed, and ahead of them was a pulsating red light. When they pointed their flashlights in its direction, they saw a tall man with a round face and a pointed hood. Kathleen describes the monster as having small claw-like hands, a pointed hood, and a head that resembles the Ace of Spades. One of the boys said its eyes emitted a green light and had a dark green body. After a few seconds, the creature began to move. It made a hissing sound as it glided towards them. As it got closer, all of them recall a pungent smell, a thick mist that burnt their eyes and nose. They all panicked and ran away before they could see the creature up close. The sheriff and his deputy had been investigating reports of an aircraft that had crashed, but when they visited the area the morning after, they couldn't see or smell anything. There were several investigations carried out, and what happened that night has been explained in numerous ways. The bright light across the sky was most likely a meteor. The pulsating red light could have been an aircraft hazard beacon, and the creature with glowing eyes and small claws could have just been an owl. This still hasn't stopped people from claiming they've seen the Flatwoods Monster, as well as experiencing the burning smell for themselves. If you've enjoyed this video, and you'd like to see more stories of cryptids from North America and the rest of the world, then let me know in the comment section. As we mentioned earlier, today's video has been sponsored by Wondrium. You may have heard me talk about the Great Courses Plus before. Well, they've now teamed up to create Wondrium, an even bigger, better, and immersive educational experience. Wondrium aims to answer questions you never even knew needed asking. They have all the same Great Courses Plus content, but with even more of a selection to choose from now. Along with courses and lectures, there are long and short form videos, tutorials, how-tos, and travelogues, as well as a host of interesting and engaging documentaries. With Halloween rapidly approaching, I found myself watching the 3-part series Monsters Within, which covers the psychology behind why horror movies are so popular. It also takes a look at Victorian horror novels such as Dorian Gray and Dr. Jekyll, and their influence on the genre. It's a great watch for anyone who enjoys horror. If you'd like to try Wondrium for yourself, then visit wondrium.com/mythology to start your free trial today.